Hello, I'm Sensei Kakuyo, North American Correspondent for Buddhistdoor Global. Thanks for joining me this evening for The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's talk is The True Source of Suffering. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So we have flower beds around our home here in the homestead, and actually I should probably put flower beds in quotation marks. The reason for that being when we moved onto the property, there were flowers for sure, and there were shrubs, but there were also a lot of weeds. And if I'm being honest, since we've been here, I haven't done much to change that. My plate has been full with teaching the Dharma, caring for the animals, planning and building out the garden, etc. And the flower beds just always seems to move to the bottom of the list. This year, especially with all the rain, the weeds have been fairly vibrant. We have burdock, we have thistle, we have dandelion. You name it, it's in there. And this has been a bit of a source of suffering. It was a little bit embarrassing to have so many weeds growing around the house, and I always told myself I was going to get to it, but I never quite did. And then something fascinating happened. I learned that a lot of the weeds growing in our flower beds are edible for human consumption. More than that, they're healthy and nutritious treats for both chickens and rabbits, which is great because here on the homestead we have chickens and rabbits. Now those flower beds that were a source of suffering and embarrassment are a great joy. We have so much free food for our animals, and it keeps growing back, no matter how many times we pick it. Now, the important thing to note here is that nothing changed about the flower beds or the plants growing in them. The only thing that shifted was my mind and my understanding about how those plants could be used. When I thought they were just ugly weeds, they were a source of suffering. Now that I understand they're a source of nutrition for our animals, they're a source of joy. Now, life isn't always quite that on the nose, but I think the lesson here is important to learn, which is that the suffering in life comes not so much from what happens to us, but how we relate to what happens to us. Whether it's weeds in the garden or a disagreement with a neighbor, a grade we get on a test, the amount of suffering we have has very little to do with the thing itself and everything to do with how our mind interacts with it. If we go at life with a feeling of acceptance, feeling that we'll simply take things as they are and make the best of it, our suffering will be less. However, if we're constantly trying to fix things to make them better or different than how they already are, well, sometimes we'll have success with that. I'm not saying we should be lumps on the log, but other times it's better to let things go or to readjust our expectations so that they match with reality. If we do this, we'll realize that many of the weeds in our own gardens are actually sources of nutrition and spiritual strength. Amitabha.